Gathered around the campfire, my friends and I were deep in the heart of Mosswood Grove. The night was clear, stars blinking like ancient secrets above. Laughter filled the air, blending with the soothing crackle of the flames. We were seasoned campers, unfazed by the legends of the woods. But as darkness settled and the forest closed in, an unexpected chill crept through my bones. Tales of the whispering trees had always been a staple of campfire stories, and that night we couldn't resist sharing them. As we spun yarns of spectral voices and lost souls, the trees seemed to listen, casting elongated shadows that wavered with every gust of wind. The first unsettling sign came with a distant rustle, almost drowned by our own chatter. I brushed it off as an animal, but a quick exchange of glances showed my friends had noticed too. The woods were alive with nocturnal sounds, but this was different, deliberate, closer. Nerves pricked at us as we tried to pinpoint the source. With a collective shrug, we attributed it to woodland creatures and the eerie ambiance of the whispering trees stories. We resumed our storytelling, but my gaze kept flicking to the tree's edge, the darkness feeling alive and watchful. As the fire dwindled, I retreated to my tent, its flimsy walls a poor defense against the primal wilderness beyond. Alone in the cocoon of my sleeping bag, I listened to the night's symphony rustling leaves, distant hoots, and the creak of ancient branches. But something else was there, just beneath the surface. A soft whisper threaded through the night, so faint I doubted myself. It came and went, a spectral murmur carried by the breeze. The more I strained to hear, the clearer it became. Words formed, disjointed and indistinct, like echoes of a forgotten conversation. Panic gripped me, but I couldn't tear myself away from the haunting sound. I wasn't alone in my distress. From their tents, my friends called out, questioning the strange whispers that had infiltrated our camp. Tension hung in the air, and despite our bravado, unease was palpable. As hours dragged on, sleep was an elusive dream. The whispering persisted, weaving an invisible tapestry of fear. Shadows danced along the walls of my tent, and my flashlight revealed fleeting glimpses of figures lurking beyond. Terrifying visions haunted my mind, eyes gleaming in the dark, silhouettes moving just beyond the trees. Morning brought little relief. The forest wore an eerie quiet. We shared. Last summer, my friends and I embarked on a weekend hiking trip in the remote wilderness. Nestled among the trees was an old cabin, forgotten by time. Eager for adventure, we decided to spend the night there. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we arrived at the cabin. It looked weathered, windows shattered, and roof sagging. We set up our sleeping bags and campfire inside, its feeble light casting dancing shadows on the walls. The surrounding woods exhaled a chorus of rustles, chirps, and distant calls, but one sound stood out, a faint rhythmic tapping. Initially dismissed as a trick of the imagination, the tapping persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Goosebumps prickled my skin as my friends exchanged uneasy glances. We ventured outside, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The source of the noise eluded us until we found it, an old swing swaying gently in the wind. Back inside the cabin, the tapping continued, accompanied by faint whispers. Fear gnawed at us as we huddled around the dwindling fire, seeking solace in one another's presence. The walls seemed to close in, and the cabin felt more like a cage than a shelter. As the night wore on, sleep proved elusive. I lay in my sleeping bag, listening to the symphony of sounds outside, the wind, the rustling leaves, and something else. The whispers had grown clearer, forming fragments of sentences that teased at the edge of my consciousness. My friends slept fitfully, their uneasy dreams filled with the same strange noises. As dawn approached, I stepped outside, desperate for fresh air. The world was cloaked in gray, the eerie calm a stark contrast to the night's cacophony. I roamed around, my gaze drawn to a decrepit shed nearby. Against my better judgment, I entered the shed, my flashlight revealing a disarray of old tools and worn furniture. A tattered journal lay open on a workbench. Curiosity getting the better of me, I read its entries, ramblings of a recluse who had lived here years ago. The entries grew increasingly erratic, filled with mentions of tapping, whispers, and an unseen guest. Chills ran down my spine as I realized that the secrets of the cabin were more sinister than I'd imagined. The journal hinted at an entity that had haunted the cabin long before we arrived. The tapping and whispers were the ghostly remnants of its presence, lingering in the walls. When I returned to the cabin, me and friends left, and we'll never return to the cabin again. Nestled deep within the heart of the towering mountains, I embarked on a solo hiking adventure to reconnect with nature and escape the noise of the urban world. The air was crisp and invigorating, carrying the scent of pine and earth as I made my way along the rugged trail. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that danced across the jagged rocks and dense foliage. The mountains stood like ancient sentinels, their peaks disappearing into the gathering mist. I had heard stories of the mysteries that these mountains held, legends of forgotten civilizations and elusive creatures. Yet I was undeterred, eager to explore the untouched beauty of this wilderness. Hours passed, and the fading light painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. The temperature dropped steadily, and I zipped up my jacket, feeling a shiver run down my spine. The path grew steeper, the rocks more treacherous underfoot. I pressed on, driven by a mix of determination and the thrill of the unknown. As darkness settled in, I switched on my headlamp, the beam of light cutting through the gloom. The trail became increasingly difficult to follow, obscured by fallen leaves and overgrown shrubs. I consulted my map, realizing that I had ventured deeper into the mountains than I had intended. But instead of panic, a sense of adventure and curiosity took hold of me. I pushed through a thick thicket, emerging into a small clearing. The moon hung high above, casting an eerie glow on the landscape. The air was still, and an uncanny silence enveloped the area. It was as if the mountains were holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. A faint sound reached my ears, a soft rhythmic drumming that echoed through the valley. I strained my ears, trying to pinpoint the source of the noise. My heart began to race as the drumming grew louder, its cadence steady and hypnotic. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, to retreat to the safety of familiar terrain, but an inexplicable compulsion urged me forward. I followed the sound deeper into the mountains, the drumming guiding my steps like a siren's call. The trail became increasingly challenging, the terrain more unforgiving. The air grew colder, and a mist descended, shrouding the landscape in an ethereal haze. With every step, a growing unease settled in the pit of my stomach. The drumming led me to a small cave entrance hidden among the rocks. The sound seemed to emanate from within, vibrating through the very earth beneath my feet. My heart pounded as I hesitated at the mouth of the cave, torn between curiosity and fear. I swallowed hard and took a hesitant step forward. The cave was dark, the only illumination coming from my headlamp. The air was thick with an ancient, musty scent, and the walls seemed to whisper with the secrets of ages past. The drumming grew louder, reverberating through the stone. The passageway twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the heart of the mountain. Suddenly, the drumming ceased, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. My heart raced as I cautiously moved forward, the walls of the cave seeming to close in around me. A faint light flickered in the distance, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I approached the source, my breath catching in my throat. In a chamber bathed in an otherworldly blue light, I saw it, a strange, shimmering portal suspended in midair. It pulsed with an energy that seemed to hum in time with my own heartbeat. The portal seemed to beckon, promising answers to questions I didn't even know I had. As I stood before the portal, the world around me seemed to blur and distort. Whispers filled the air, unintelligible yet hauntingly familiar. The walls of the cave seemed to ripple like water, and I felt as if I were standing at the threshold of something beyond my comprehension. In that moment, a gust of wind rushed through the cave, extinguishing my headlamp. Darkness enveloped me, and a profound sense of dread washed over me. Panic surged as I fumbled to relight my lamp, my fingers trembling. When the light finally flickered back to life, the portal was gone, leaving behind only the ancient stone walls of the cave. The drumming had ceased, replaced by a profound silence. The blue light had vanished, and the air was heavy with an oppressive stillness. I stumbled my way out of the cave, my heart racing and my mind a whirlwind of confusion. The night had grown even darker, and the mountains seemed to hold their secrets even tighter. As I retraced my steps, a chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something beyond the veil of reality, something that should have remained hidden in the depths of the mountains. To this day, the memory of that night haunts my dreams, The mountains hold their secrets close, and I am left with a lingering unease, a reminder that there are forces in this world that defy everything and what you believe.